Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes, a fantasy basketball podcast hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry into your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Oh, Michael, it's a great day, isn't it?
It's a little hot. It's a little warm here in most of the world.
Well, now, come on, isn't that a good thing?
Maybe today it is. Maybe I don't know how long this is going to last, but it was a nice Labor Day weekend. Did you have a good long weekend, Tyler?
Oh, it was all right. I can't complain. I didn't do anything too exciting.
Okay, good. Yeah, we took it easy here on the Watching the Boxes podcast. We are getting ever closer now that it is September to the start of the regular season. We are actually in the month where preseason games will be played. So it is sneaking up on us, Tyler.
So is it a test of your true NBA fandom if you watch the Mavericks and the Sixers game coming up at the end of this month? Might be beginning of next month.
I mean, I think so. Why would I not watch that game?
The games are in China, Mike.
I don't care.
So the one starts at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, which that one's not too bad, but the other one I believe is on a Monday morning at 7 a.m.
I'll just go to work early and put the game on.
So I think that if you watch that one on Monday at 7 a.m., you are a real basketball fan.
Yeah, maybe I won't. That's a little too early for me. It's hard for me to get up and watch Premier League games, let alone these Chinese basketball games. So I could just wait for the highlights. You're not going to get much out of NBA players playing Chinese teams. Or are they not playing Chinese teams? They're just playing each other. They're playing the Sixers? Okay, maybe not. I know they're playing an Australian team out there, right?
No, the Beijing Ducks are coming to Dallas.
Oh, my gosh.
At the end of this month. That
sounds like a bad 80s movie. The Beijing Ducks are coming to Dallas.
And that's going to be a romp there. But they play each other. They go on the 2nd, and I think they play each other on the 5th and the 7th of next month.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot about these teams going into the preseason. I think we kind of started we're in the middle of our 30 teams in over 30 days period of previewing all 30 teams in the NBA. And usually what we do is we run through these and then preseason happens and the rotations change. And we kind of give an update. I'd say we don't want to wait until preseason to tell you what's changed on these teams and what to expect on these teams. But we always do give an update during the preseason on what we've learned. And maybe that does switch what our previews were earlier in the preseason.
But yeah, I mean, what percentage would you say it is? Like 5% changes? Maybe not even that much, right? Like there's not a ton that changes, right?
Maybe like at the least 5% and at the most like 15% for some of those unknown teams. And I think we kind of started with the known knowns as former what was he, Secretary General Donald Rumsfeld. That is the first Donald Rumsfeld reference on the show, so drink if you're at home. We know the known knowns are kind of the teams we started with, and we started with them on purpose. Like we kind of know what's going on with the Warriors. I know Boogie is a big question. We kind of know what's going on in Portland. We know what's going on with the Hornets and the Wizards, but now we're kind of getting into those teams where they do have a little bit of some question marks and some more interesting new players. And today we are going to be talking about the Spurs. But first, I just want to mention that the Tyler Fancy Pants Dynasty League is almost full. So we have a lot of people who have joined the Patreon over the last few weeks. Shout out to all you going to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes to sign up to join the Tyler Dynasty League. A couple of you even wanted to sign up for the Mike Super Boring Redraft League. So respects to all you guys out there. And I want to give a special shout out to a couple of our Patreon subscribers, Charles Koo, thank you for subscribing. We will be sending. We already got your information. You're going to be in one of the listener leagues, and I feel like this was done on purpose. This is an incredibly difficult name to
that's just me. No,
to pronounce. Like I feel like this might be Tyler playing a prank on me, but I'm going to give it a shot, and then Tyler is gonna correct me. Oh my gosh, I think this was done on purpose to show how bad I am at pronouncing stuff. Siguro Heldar Balderson. Siguro Balderson. That is probably brutally Midwesternly destroyed. Hey,
is he from Iceland?
I'm guessing he's from Iceland. So we got 2 Iceland listeners out here. So probably old Thomas, like fake regular name. It turns out Iceland name, Tomas. I think he might have told old Sigor, who can feel free to tweet at me and tell me how to actually pronounce your name, to sign up. So respect to both of those guys for joining the Patreon at patreon.com/watchingtheboxes.
Yeah, so that and here's what I'll say. I told someone this on Twitter the other day, so I'll say it here too. If the Dynasty League fills up and people want to play in a Dynasty League, keep subscribing to the Patreon. I will run another league. I will run 5 more leagues if we get that many people. Like I'm going to try to find you a way to get into a Dynasty League if you sign up for the Patreon, as long as you don't sign up after the regular season has already started. So you got relatively 6 more weeks to sign up.
Yeah, the first one's almost full. So we have sent out emails soliciting your information. Please get back to us so we can get you in the Dynasty League. And if there's enough interest, we're going to start another one. So go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes to sign up. All right, now it is time to talk about your San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, the big move of the offseason was sending Kawhi Leonard over to the Raptors, and in return, getting DeMar DeRozan. So that is kind of probably going to answer our first question. But we also in that trade, Danny Green went to the Raptors. So Kawhi and Danny Green off the team. Kyle Anderson signed with the Grizzlies, and Tony Parker is going to look really weird in a Hornets jersey this season. They did re-sign Rudy Gay. They also got Marco Bellinelli, Dante Cunningham, and Jakob Poeltl in the Raptors trade. I don't know how to say his name either. And Lonnie Walker.
Dude, it's like a cat does. What does a cat? What noise does the cat make, Mike?
Poeltl.
There you go.
Jakob Poeltl. I like Poeltl better. And Lonnie Walker the 4th was drafted also. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that guy's name. The 49th pick in the draft, who will hopefully will not talk about in this draft. Tyler, what is the most interesting thing going into the fantasy season for the San Antonio Spurs?
Well, it's probably the trade, right? And it also secondarily could be the dichotomy of the trade between is LaMarcus Aldridge, or is LaMarcus Aldridge the season we saw with a healthy Kawhi Leonard? Yeah,
I think it's got to be the DeMar DeRozan entering this team and how he affects LaMarcus Aldridge's overall value. So we saw last season pretty incredible reboost for LaMarcus Aldridge. So after he went to the San Antonio Spurs, I think a lot of people lost faith in LaMarcus Aldridge's like full fantasy value because he just wasn't the focal point of the offense like he was in Portland. But last season he was completely the focal point of that offense, and he averaged back up to 23 points per game, 8 rebounds while shooting 51% from the field. Kind of old school LaMarcus Aldridge, which was kind of surprising at the age of 32.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think anyone really saw Aldridge being that good, especially because all of last preseason we thought he was going to be playing with Kawhi again, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, that crapshoot really, I think, threw everybody off the scent of LaMarcus Aldridge. But the season before that, pretty poor showing. Points dropped down to 17. His rebounds dropped. His shooting dropped. He was shooting a lot more threes. And then, as you said, the season before that with Kawhi Leonard, played pretty well in 30 minutes per game. I guess, how do you see LaMarcus Aldridge's season shaping up? Are you saying his value staying steady or going down, and if so, how far?
Well, I don't see any way that he stays with the 23 points. I think they're going to ask him to play big minutes again, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays 33 again. I don't know if that's the best for a 33-year-old guy, but I think that there's just not a lot else to play here. But we can talk about this. I mean, ESPN has him ranked 35th. ESPN is not releasing their ADP yet, so I used Yahoo's ADP. Yahoo has him 34.6, so he's relatively the 35th pick in both ESPN and Yahoo leagues. I just think that's way too high for him. Like, I'm expecting 18 to 19 points, like 7.5 rebounds, like 2 assists, probably 1.2 blocks a game. Like, it's just not that much, and especially for pick 35, like, give him to me in the 40s or 50s, not at pick 35.
I think I'm going to have to disagree with you, Tyler. LaMarcus Aldridge is an ultra efficient player. Now, I play mostly in roto leagues, so that means a lot to me. If you're playing a head-to-head league, yeah, 35 is too high. There's guys with better upside and just a lot better guys you can build a team around. I'm not trying to build a team around LaMarcus Aldridge. And also by the third round, I don't need a guy who's like a jack of all trades. Usually you're punting, at least I like to punt after I've got my first 2 best guys on the board, and I'm deciding from there which direction I want to go. Usually that means LaMarcus Aldridge is not part of that build. But I have, in my roto rankings, I have LaMarcus Aldridge in my top 30. Now, he's at the bottom of that top 30. But you kind of said it out loud. Who else is going to play minutes on this team? So if he's playing 32, 33 minutes per game, what is keeping him from averaging around 19 points, 8 rebounds, and getting really good percentages while doing getting the occasional block? He's not a great fantasy player, but he's also a very consistent and across the board fantasy player.
Oh, I'm with you there. And then Roto, right? You're not going to want guys like Andre Drummond and, Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan. So, I mean, that's obviously pushing him up the board a little bit too. I'll ask you one that I'm interested in. Would you rather have Marcus Gasol or LaMarcus Aldridge?
Ooh, that's unfair. In a Roto league, I think you can make an argument for either. Personally, I'd rather have Marcus Gasol.
Yeah, me too. Just Marcus Aldridge is one of those guys for me that I just never really find the opportunity to jump all in and be like, yeah, I've got LaMarcus Aldridge, right? Like, if he falls a little bit, sometimes I'm like, I'll take LaMarcus Aldridge, but I'm never like super excited about it.
Yeah, he is definitely not that exciting. I got a question for you. Would you rather have Miles Turner, who we talked about in a previous podcast with the Indiana Pacers, or LaMarcus Aldridge?
Man. I guess that somewhat depends on what my team looks like. And here's why, right? If I've got some riskier players, be that because of injury or upside, like more upside and some downside, I might take LaMarcus Aldridge because I feel like LaMarcus is pretty safe. But I more often than not, I want Miles Turner, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm taking probably LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm in on Miles Turner this year. But I'm probably taking LaMarcus Aldridge over Miles Turner in a Roto league. But I think it's pretty close. And that's how high I am on Miles Turner, because I think LaMarcus, I got him in my top 30 right now. I'm kind of looking at who's in my 30 to 40 range and thinking out loud, I could see a few of those guys moving up ahead of LaMarcus Aldridge by the end of the year, simply because of their possible ceilings. versus LaMarcus Aldridge, who, his ceiling was what he did last year, and he's probably not going to reach that ceiling.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm with you there.
Let's talk about the other main piece, the catalyst for talking about LaMarcus Aldridge, and that is DeMar DeRozan, who had a very good season. He's gotten better every single year that he's played in the league. Kind of maybe early in his fantasy career, a lot of people kind of wrote him off as a guy who could only score, but he's steadily improved his rebounds, his assists, his and a little bit of his steals, and he's even shooting more threes now. And he is still a premier type scorer that you can usually get in later rounds. Last season, finishing per game average in a 9-cat league, 48th overall. DeMar DeRozan
I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed in DeMar. People finally drank the Kool-Aid, man. They finally drank the Kool-Aid, and I'm disappointed in that.
You're disappointed because you're not going to be able to draft him?
Yeah, right. So he's usually hanging right around in that 50 range, like 40 to 50. And he's 38th in Mark's rankings, which is probably about spot on, I think. And both ESPN and Yahoo, ESPN has him ranked 32nd, Yahoo ADP 32.5, which is just a little higher than I want to take DeMar, right? I want him in that 40 to 50 range. I don't want him because I want to get a little bit of value on him, and I just don't think that's going to be there this year.
Yeah, I feel like top 40 is his ceiling. And what concerns me a little bit is he played 34 minutes a game last season. Pop doesn't often like to play guys 34 minutes a game.
So you want to see how crazy their rotations were last year? I was looking this up right before we started. So who played the most minutes on the Spurs last year, Michael?
My guess would be LaMarcus Aldridge.
33.5 minutes. You want to guess who played the second most minutes per game?
Ooh, Danny Green?
Danny Green was fourth at 25.6 minutes a game.
DeJounte Murray?
DeJounte Murray played 21.5 minutes per game. That was 8.
Man,
Rudy Gay anymore. You mentioned him already.
Rudy Gay. No, not Rudy Gay. I don't know.
Kyle Anderson played 26.7 minutes a game.
No, that couldn't be.
That was second most on the Spurs last year, according to Basketball Reference. You can look it up yourself, children.
That is incredible.
Yes. So that's crazy, though, right? So LaMarcus played 33, which is a lot. And I would not be surprised to see DeMar play somewhere similar. But the fact that nobody else played more than 26 minutes last year, 26.7 minutes, is just crazy to me. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, and that is actually kind of why the Spurs have been the bane of a lot of fantasy owners' existence for a very long time. Very random. I actually think there's a pattern to it. Some people think there's a random rotation there, but I think Pop knows how to pick and choose when he goes and gets that second team more experience that they normally get so that they're prepared for down the stretch and in the playoffs when they're actually needed. I think, Pop is a genius, obviously. So that said, he doesn't really help fantasy overs by being inconsistent, by playing some of these guys like Kyle Anderson, who is going to play more minutes next year, only limited minutes, and hurting their fantasy value. So do you think DeMar DeRozan's fantasy value is going to be hurt from that, from Pop's random minutes restrictions and inconsistent rotations?
Not really. And the only reason I say that is who else are the Spurs really going to want to play over DeMar DeRozan?
Right? Like nobody.
You talked about this at the beginning, right? They lost a lot of their depth pieces, right? When the Spurs were really, really good, when they had that really good run, they had a lot of depth, right? Manu Ginobili came off the bench as their sixth man. Manu just retired. Like, they just don't have a ton of guys that you're like, yeah, I can't wait for them to put this guy in.
Yeah, no one's getting all jacked up to see Rudy Gay play 20 minutes a game, or some guy named Matt Costello who played 8 minutes. That's not a real person. let's see who else is on this team. Oh my gosh. Well, Danny Green's gone. Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's nothing terribly exciting about anyone else on this team. So I think DeMar DeRozan has to play,
especially in the backcourt and on the wings, right? Like you got Murray, you've got DeRozan, you got Patty Mills. Like a lot of their guard depth is gone. It's just gone. Ginobili retired. Parker left.
Yeah, so I mean, those minutes could maybe even stay the same at 34. Do you think playing in Pop system will help DeMar DeRozan efficiency-wise, or maybe even get his assist numbers up a little bit higher to make him a tad more valuable than the 40-50 range?
Here was the crazy thing. He had 5.2 assists per game last year, right? The Raptors let him handle the ball a little bit more finally, and he kind of did it. I wouldn't be surprised to see that number go down a little bit. He'd only been like 4 assists a game the previous 2 years. And so I think it's probably in like the 4.5 range, if I have to guess. So you're probably talking like 4.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists for DeMar next year, and like 1 steal, probably 21 to 23 points a game. Like it's still a good stat line, but I don't really want it at pick 32.
Yeah, I don't want him in my. I don't want to pick him in the third round. I'm probably waiting till the 4th round. He's probably not going to get to the 4th round, so probably not. Yeah, like you said, you're probably not going to own DeMar DeRozan in too many leagues. But I think his value will stay consistent from where it was last year. I'm not terribly worried about DeMar DeRozan drastically falling off in Pop's system or playing too many less minutes than he did already in Toronto. So I'd just keep him kind of level, and I think his ceiling is probably what he did last year.
I'm with you on that.
All right, so that is like the main 2 guys here on the Spurs, and I'm gonna do something I never do. I'm gonna let Tyler pick the next player we talk about. Tyler, you get the honor of picking the next player we talk about, and it has to be someone who is standard league relevant. I don't want to talk about Matthew Carter or whoever the other guy was.
So we can talk about this. There's probably only one player left that's definitely standardly relevant.
Oh wow, okay. I would say there are 2 standard league relevant players.
Okay, now
go ahead.
You and I can talk about why one of these 2 might not be in a second. But DeJounte Murray is definitely going to be standard league relevant, and if you play in the Yahoo League, this guy is 100% a steal. He has a Yahoo ADP of 131.6. So you can basically have him in the last round. Nobody
is paying attention to this guy. And down the stretch there, he was playing. Actually, he's 22 years old. He was starting. He wasn't just playing. He was starting as the point guard for the Spurs. And he is a great, like, weird stats point guard. Only averaged about 3 assists a game, which kind of bodes well for DeMar DeRozan as a kind of a primary ball handler. Almost about 6.5 rebounds a game over the almost 7 rebounds a game over the last 3 months. 10 points and almost 2 steals a game and a half a block. That is the weirdest. That's one of the weirdest stat lines I think I've ever seen from a point guard.
Yeah. And the rebounds, right, are just crazy. I mean, to have 7 rebounds a game from a point guard is nuts. This guy's real interesting. He's ranked 61st in Mark's rankings. Even on ESPN, they have him ranked 87th. So,
wow.
So you
give him some props.
So you got a nice little value on either site, I think. He's a guy probably going to own a lot. And here's the nice thing, too. Like, his free throw percentage is not great, but he's probably going to shoot pretty well from the field. Now, he's not going to give you any 3-pointers, which is obviously a detriment. But, like, all those other stats, they're just weird for a point guard. But he's perfect in a certain build, especially in head-to-head league, right, where you're punting some things. Like, you can really fit this guy into a nice build that, like, fill a point guard spot with something you really need when he's not really giving you point guard stats.
Yeah, he feels like he's 22. Since he's 22, like he's got room for improvement. He'll probably play a few extra minutes in there with Tony Parker gone, and he just feels like a guy that's going to be overlooked by a majority of the casual drafters out there, who deserves a late round pick in almost, I would say, almost all punt strategies, minus, I guess, if you're punting rebounds, which I don't terribly suggest. But to get those weird out of position stats, those can really change the way your team looks. So if you're a big heavy team and you want to solidify that, late DeJounte Murray and streaming him off your bench, or having him in your utility spot, getting you 7 rebounds a game from the guard spot, that's pretty rare. And I would say he's definitely someone who has to be drafted in standard leagues. All right, Tyler. I know you like DeJounte Murray, but you said you're not interested in any of the players.
Wait, I got a question for you.
Oh, wow.
So on DeJounte Murray. So you said, right, that you're picking him in a late round, which is fine, right? That's probably right. But yeah. I'm gonna say let's go with our hypothetical Mike draft, right? Or just a lot of really in the know guys. DeJounte Murray really fits what you want to do. Okay, where are you kind of looking at Murray? We can agree that the ADPs are a little bit too low, probably. So where do you think you would look for Murray, right? Are you more with Mark? Are you more with ESPN? Are you more with Yahoo? Like, are you going to try to get him in the last round? Or are you more like, if I have to take him at pick 80, I'll take him at pick 80. If I have to take him at pick 60, I'll take him at pick 60.
Well, I feel if I'm targeting him, so I got a good punt strategy that he fits my team, I'm okay with taking him in around the 8th round. Because if he fits your punt strategy, he's worth to you more than the guys who are going to be in the 8th round. But overall, I just see DeJounte Murray as someone who will be overlooked, and you could probably get him in the 9th or 10th round of your draft. And I think I'm willing to take the risk that as long as I know my league, so that's the most important thing. If you're in a league full of people who talk about DeJounte Murray on a regular basis, maybe, just maybe, you would want to take him in the 7th or 8th round, especially if he fits your punt belt. But I'm in a casual league. I'm willing to see if he slips and take that risk.
I'm with you there. I think I'm going to own a lot of Murray this year. But we'll see what happens.
Are you taking him before the 8th round let's say in a standard 12-team draft?
I don't think I'm going to have to. I think you're right about that. I would probably take him in the 8th. I may think about him in the 7th, depending on what exactly my punch strategy is. That changes things a lot for me.
Yeah, I can see if you're in the beginning of the 7th. So we're going to talk about drafting head-to-head versus Roto versus Snake and Auction later in the season, in the preseason anyway, not later in the regular season. That would make literally no sense. Sometimes you got to reach, and if you reached for DeJounte Murray at the top of the 7th round, I might say a few disparaging marks, but I wouldn't be terribly upset about it. But if you're taking him near the end of the 7th round into the 8th round, I don't think you can fault that pick at all.
I'm with you there.
All right. Now, Tyler is not going to be interested or drafting any other players. And I don't think I'm going to be drafting any other players.
Well, that's what I said. I said definitely standard league, right? Because to me, definitely, you said definitely standard league. To me, definitely standard league means this guy's going to definitely be picked in every draft.
Okay. See, when I say standard league relevant, I feel like people who are considered possible streamers, I would consider them standard league relevant.
Oh, okay. Well, then they got a couple more maybe.
Yeah, and I think the obvious one is somehow still the oldest Gasol, Paul Gasol, one of the biggest Gasols in the league. Somehow still playing like extended minutes, even though like he played 23 and a half minutes a game last season, even though defense left him years ago. He's 38 years old, and in that 23 minutes, he still was a 10-8 with a block, and like that's streamable with 3 assists.
In Mark's rankings, comes out 103rd. So I mean, that's almost a top 100 player. Now Mark put him at 26 minutes, and I'm of two minds of that. They did lose a lot of depth here, and the other guys to play are like Davis Bertans, and I mean, not anything most people want to sign up for. But at the same time, it's Pop, and he loves to play those guys. Right? They're not household names, some big minutes, some games. So it'll be interesting to see where his minutes lie. I'm kind of more with the 24, 25 than 26, but
yeah, there's
done right before.
There's just not a lot of Jakob Poeltl. That's like your only competition for Paul Gasol's minutes. Paul Gasol, 23 minutes feels right. Like he played 23 and a half minutes last season. 23 to 24 feels right. So if you liked what he did last year, if he was relevant in your league last year, then he's relevant again. In no way, shape, or form, even if he ends up being the 104th best player, do I think you should be drafting him? Because late in the rounds of your draft, you should be targeting guys with high upside. Even if I could guarantee you Paul Gasol is going to be the 105th best player, I just still don't think you should take him with the 105th pick.
In a standard league, I'm definitely with you.
Yes.
But in a deeper league, like he's going to be drafted, it should be drafted, right? Like if you're rostering 200 players in your league,
that's a whole nother story.
Right, he's a mid-round pick then, right? I mean, he's relatively
I would
halfway
pick him
through the draft.
105. Like he's going to bring you value.
Right. So there's kind of two distinctions there, and I think some people don't understand that, right? But my rankings for a 12-team league or below, right, 12, 10, 8 team league look very different than my rankings for a 16 or 20-team league.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we are probably going to be talking about that as well. I know we are going to have exclusive content on the Patreon. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, you will be getting exclusive content to certain podcasts in this preseason to help you prepare for your draft. So if you want to subscribe, patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. But I think we're going to try to get us a couple guests on to talk about how they prepare for to strategize for different types of draft, including large drafts. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out to us with questions. Tyler, you're at Tyler P. Watts with 2 T's, WATTS. And you can tweet at me at Watch the Boxes. And I know that sounds like the closing of the podcast, but Tyler, I still think we have a few more people to talk about on this team.
Oh, definitely. I think, we have at least 2 more. One, man, he came out 125th in Mark's rankings, old Patty Mills. And
really?
That kind of surprised me.
That feels high.
And so if you know anything about Mark's rankings, these were actually Mark's 9-cat rankings. I did Mike a favor and used the 9-cat.
Thanks. You should be counting turnovers, everybody.
So he came out 125th. And a lot of it is he's played a ton of games, right? 81, 80, and 82 last 3 years. He doesn't do anything super sexy. But again, like in a deeper league, like there's probably somebody that's worth owning.
Yeah, and with that kind of with him sharing the load with Murray, that's also kind of like I know in football they have handcuffs. In deeper leagues, that's the only time you start paying attention to handcuffs in fantasy, and you don't even really need to, but it does. I wouldn't say if you drafted DeJounte Murray, you need to draft Patty Mills. I'd more say if you have a team with 2 actual point guards who are only going to be the point guards playing ever, well, Patty Mills' stock is a little bit higher than a team who, if they're the 3rd guard, and they'll still rotate if somebody gets injured. And I think in deep leagues, Patty Mills, I don't know why Mark has him ranked that high. I don't think Patty Mills even with second off the bench type minutes, so like 22, 23, 24 minutes, I don't think he is standard league relevant.
So here's what drives the rankings. 85% from the free throw line. Now, granted, it's on minimal attempts, but that's boosting it up some. 2.1 3-pointers a game, which, especially in that range, is, I mean, unless they're just a 3-point shooter, right? That's difficult to come by. Then you get 2 rebounds, you get 3.3 assists, right? You get 0.8 steals, you get 11 points. Like it all kinds of comes out in the wash of like not great, not great, not great, not great. But at the end of the day, like you're getting a little bit in every category. And so I would say that like if I'm doing a draft, he's probably closer to Yahoo's ADP, which is 145. Like he's probably a top 150 player.
That's fair. I would sign up for
and if you play a deep league on ESPN, I would definitely pick him in my last pick because he is the 276th ranked player. So if you're drafting like 250 guys in an ESPN league, Patty Mills may be a real steal in your last pick.
That's a good point. You got to go check out those rankings on those sites. They are still pretty far off.
ESPN is not a fan of the Spurs. Rudy Gay is also ranked 264th.
Wow. That's also surprising. That doesn't sound right either.
And Rudy, I mean, we could talk about Rudy Gay for a second if you want. I mean,
I think we should. I was going to say, like, Rudy Gay feels like a guy who's going to be somewhat relevant at some point in the season.
So the Achilles injury a lot of times saps your field goal percentage, but Rudy Gay shot the best field goal percentage he shot in a long time. Granted, in limited minutes. I mean, Rudy Gay still produced a really good stat line last year with the Spurs in only 21 minutes a game.
Yeah, and like, where do you see his minutes going down? Because I don't see.
I think his minutes go up.
At all. Yeah, I think they have to go up. And if they're in that 24, 25 range, he's still, he's a better Patty Mills. He gets some better rebounds. He shoots a better field goal percentage. His blocks and steals are a little bit higher. They're not all the way up to 1. And he's going to score a little bit. So
listen, he gets 25 minutes. He's probably getting a steal a game.
Yeah. That's well worth it. Like I said, not going to draft him because he's not. His upside is, top.
I bet y'all stream him though.
Yeah,
at some point this year, right? Like I need 13 points and 5 rebounds at the end of a week. I feel pretty darn good about Rudy Gay getting that if he's playing 25 or 26 minutes a night.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd take him if I need some points as well. So definitely a guy who's going to be relevant in your standard leagues, but not a draftable player. Is there anything else on the Spurs that you want to point out?
So I've been hearing some Jakob Poeltl love.
From who?
Just like, he's on the Spurs. He's going to get 25, 22, 23 minutes, right? Like he's going to split it with Gasol. And
so handsome.
So the only thing I'll say, okay, and here's the 2 things. You might stream him if you're in a real deep league and you need a block. He's probably going to block close to a shot a game.
Cool.
And he's going to shoot in really good field goal percentage on next to no attempts.
That's not that cool.
So there you go. There's why. But if you're thinking about drafting him, like his ADP in Yahoo is 142. That's like damn near a standard league player. Like he's clearly getting some love there, and I really don't get it.
Yeah, get that trash out of here, everybody.
I thought maybe you would have some good things to say about him because I really don't. Like He's gonna play like 20 minutes a game and block like a shot. If that's what you want,
like
that's okay.
You're right on top of it. But I'm gonna say, like, what's the best case scenario here for Jakob Poeltl this year? Like, why would anyone be drafting him in a standard league? Is the best case scenario is like he's the starting center?
Okay, so here's
on the Spurs, which still probably means you play 28, 29 minutes a game. And then fantasy-wise, what does that get you at 29 minutes? Like 6 to 7 rebounds and a little over a block and nothing else?
Well, I mean, at 28 or 29 minutes, we're probably talking like a block and a half. So that's getting a little bit more interesting.
A block and a half and no assists and
no
mediocre
steals
rebounds.
And bad free throws and maybe
Yeah.
10 points if you're lucky, right? Like maybe 11.
I don't know where.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. If you
Where
tell
that
me
goes.
like, okay, Pau Gasol retires tomorrow, which I don't think is going to happen. Like this is just a hypothetical, right?
No, he refuses.
You know, I mean, if he are they really even going to give him 28 minutes? Like I just told you last year that the highest one was 26.7 minutes. Like I still think they'll find someone else to play, and he'll play like 22 minutes a game.
Yeah, they'll play. Screw it. They'll play LaMarcus at the 5 and Rudy Gay at the 4. They'll just do whatever they want. It's pop.
That's what I mean. And so, like, I don't see any upward mobility for this guy. Like, if you're picking him in your standard league, I think you're doing it wrong.
I 100% agree. Stay away from the Jakob Poeltl because that is a trap. That could be one of those if you're in a bigger league, maybe not a big league, but like a standard league, and you're in an auction draft. That's one of those throw it out there. They got the name recognition from the trade, and then just walk away real quick. I think that's kind of a good move.
He's too cheap for me to do that because I'm always worried I'm going to get crickets, and then I'm going to own him. Like if I throw him out there to buck, I'm too worried someone like no one's going to say anything, and then I'm going to get freaking. I'm going to own Poeltl, and I don't want it. So I'll do that with big name guys or bigger name guys that I want. Like, okay, say the guy's a $20 player or a $30 player, like I'll do that. But when they get like less than $5, I always get a little bit too concerned that no one else is going to bid.
Yeah, I guess if you're in the bigger leagues, like the block and the rebounds, or you're desperate for those. Like there they are; those stats will be there, and you could get lucky. I just feel like there's a lot of other players in that 120 to 150 range that I'd rather have on my team than taking a chance in Jakob Poeltl. So even though he's 23, I'd still say stay away. So I think that is it for the San Antonio Spurs. Like I said, if you want to leave us feedback, find us on Twitter at Watch the Boxes, at Tyler P. Watts, or rate and review us on whatever you're listening to this to. That really, really helps. Or tell a friend, like our friends in Iceland. Respect to them. Tell your buddies. Tell your pals. Tell your mates if you're in Australia. I know we got some Australian listeners out there. Shout out to you as well. And if you want to get exclusive content or entry to Tyler's Dynasty League, go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Subscribe. Check it out. We're going to be putting out content. We have a mock draft from some experts that was done not that long ago, and a full podcast out there right now as exclusive content for our Patreon subscribers. So I think that's it for the Spurs. Thanks for listening, everybody, and have a good one. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes, a fantasy basketball podcast hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry to your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Michael, how are you this fine day?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I can feel.
We are talking about your favorite team, so you should be excited today.
Is this the Chicago Bulls episode?
Well, it's the Chicago Bulls Western Conference.
Oh, is that the Golden State Warriors?
No, close.
Oh, is it the Thibodeau Bulls?
Yes.
The Timber Bulls?
So
oh,
no. Question to kick this off, Mike. Do they sign Joakim Noah and Luol Deng?
I think they're definitely going to sign Luol Deng, who is one of the most underrated players of all time. Joakim Noah, maybe not.
I guess if Tibbs
I would love that.
If Tibbs breaks you, he feels the need to still give you a job and let you make the millions.
Yeah, he's like, well, your longevity of your career is dead, but I can at least throw you like 5 million on the side. All those guys, I mean, all those guys, Derek and Joakim and Luau, they're all just their legs are all broken. It's really, really, really sad. But if they sign those
And they
guys, man,
all
I'm
play
gonna
for
fly up
Fulham,
to.
man.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly. And Taj is still kicking it. In my opinion, there was a tweet out there said, who's the most underrated player in the league right now? And the answer is Taj Gibson. The dude's a playoff starting caliber 4, and no one ever talks about him. Nobody gives a crap, and he's improved his game every single year, and he's tough as hell, and he plays his ass off. Taj Gibson's the most underrated player in the league.
I'm not going to argue.
Stan.
I'm not going to argue with that.
You are not allowed to argue with that. But we are in the middle of our 30 teams in over 30 days, and we're doing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, like I said, if they sign Noah and Dang, I'm going to fly up to a game. So all our listeners up in Minnesota, I'll be up there at some point this winter to freeze to death and to see Tom Thibodeau run Karl-Anthony Towns' legs into the ground, and feel really, really sad about it. Before we get started, I do want to mention that we do have a Patreon, Tyler's Dynasty League. We were still waiting for responses from some of our subscribers. So if you subscribe and respond to the email, you actually might sneak into the Dynasty League. So everybody needs to get out there, give us your information if you're already a subscriber to Patreon, or if you want to get into Tyler's Dynasty League or Mike's boring redraft league. Go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes and subscribe today. I want to give a special shout out to some of our Patreon subscribers. Dennis Lopez, we know you, Dennis. Thank you so much for subscribing to the Patreon. And Andrew Caleros, which is easier to say than the Icelandic names from last episode. And then also a guy named Richard. That's it. No last name. No other information. Just the mysterious Richard. I want to thank all you for subscribing to our Patreon. We really appreciate it. And we will be getting you an email to sign up for our Dynasty or Redraft Leagues if you want to be in those. Like I said, subscribe as a Patreon. We're also providing exclusive content in the lead up to the season to prepare you for your drafts. That's patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Tyler, let's talk about
Tyler's not in
these Minnesota Timberwolves.
Not watching the boxes.
Tyler's not subscribed to the Patreon.
No. /Tyler. You said /Tyler. No, he's not. They're not. When I will put my name in there, you'll mess it up.
Put /watchingtheboxes Tyler.
Yeah,
that's a whole other site that you don't want to know about. Scott, there's a lot of explicit content on that site. Instead, just watching the boxes. Yeah, probably. I'm not going to go there. I'm not clicking on that. All right. Enough of this nonsense. Let's talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that I will watch too many games of because, you know what, their style of play isn't that great, but, you know, Karl-Anthony Towns is just easily one of the most fascinating, I think, to me, basketball in general, players to watch because he is incredibly fluid with the ball. He runs around screens like he's a guard. He shoots threes off those screens. He's 7 foot tall. He's one of the best scoring big men of in the league, let alone just in the last 20 some years. And yet, for some reason, he still takes less shots than half the team. So a real big fat question mark on why the hell that would ever happen. But also, he's a top 5 fantasy player. So I guess I'm going to start with, because just get it out of the way, where are you picking Karl-Anthony Towns in the first round?
Well, I mean, we talk about this a lot. I mean, it's all personal preference, right? He's 4th in Mark's rankings. He's 5th in ESPN. He's 6.3 average draft position on Yahoo. Like, about first 7 or 8 guys, like, it's all just on who you want. I mean, they all are great. They all do really good things. Like, I'm not going to fault you for picking any of them anywhere. So, I mean, personally, for me, I'm going to pick Harden. I'm going to pick Curry. I'm going to pick Durant. And I'm going to pick Giannis. And then I'm probably going to pick Karl Towns.
Interesting. A lot of people are out on Curry this year. I think that is real foolish. If you can get Curry with the 7th, 8th, 9th pick out there, that's first off insane, and second off,
wait, I forgot AD, didn't I?
Yeah, you did forget AD. I have Cat Daddy over Giannis in my rankings. I got him at 5. I might move him up to 4.
All right.
I don't know.
All right.
Steph Curry's up there at 4.
I just think they're all like so close, and they're all kind of personal preference. And
they are pretty much. Someone was asking, "Who do I take with the 4th pick? This guy or this guy?" I was like, "Who cares? It doesn't really matter. You're going to build your team in the later rounds. Who you lead with, really, in my opinion, there's a tier 1A and a tier 1B. Harden and Anthony Davis are in my tier 1A, and I think you pick them over everybody else. Other than that, tier B is the next, 6, 7 guys, whatever."
Yeah, right. And it's like, I mean, they're all just so close. Do you want a point guard? Do you want a big man? Do you want this? Do you want that? And a lot of it, too, should come down to you for how do you feel about the mid-round big men, right? Are you okay with having your center being Steven Adams or Jonas Valanciunas or Hassan Whiteside? Or do you think you need Karl Anthony Towns to be your center?
Yeah, personally, that could... Yeah, that could bump your thought up on Karl Anthony Towns. Just being like, oh, those kind of the next tier of big men, I'm either not going to get them or I'm not interested in them, and I'm going to have to wait till like the 7th, 8th round to pick a center. You might be okay with that because everybody else is going to be waiting that long too. Or you could just say, I'm going to get my center out of the way and pick Karl Anthony Towns. Personally, it just doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, but if you pick Towns 3rd, I mean, I wouldn't say, oh, you're stupid.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be totally fine. He's a fantastic center. He's especially great in Roto. Like, just, go ahead and do it. I think that's enough for Karl Anthony Towns. Let's just get him out. I want to get him out of the way because we all know Karl Anthony Towns is damn good.
Dude, serious question. One last one on Towns. Could he be the top percentage three-point shooter in the league this year? He's taken 2 pretty big jumps, including shooting 42.1% last year. That is insane. The answer to the question is no, but it's still insane.
The answer is Lowry Markkanen's still in the league, so the answer is no, bro.
But you know what I mean? 42.1% from a 7-footer, just insanity.
Yeah, if you have a chance to go see Minnesota play live this year, wherever you live, I would recommend it. Watching Karl Anthony Towns in action in person is surreal because you just never seen a person move like that, shoot like that. Highly recommend it.
And you get to see him play 36 minutes a game. So, I mean.
Yeah, you'll definitely see him play. And you get to hear Tibbs yell until his voice goes. So there's that too. All right, let's talk about the rest of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tyler, what is the most interesting fantasy thread going into the season for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
So, it's nothing. We know exactly what this team is. Exactly. We saw it last year. Okay, they got rid of Jamal Crawford. That was it, right?
Oh, man. Not Jamal Crawford.
You know what I mean?
Throws the whole chemistry out of whack.
And say what you want about Tibbs or his coaching or any of that stuff. Like, throw that all aside. Here's the facts. He plays all the starters 35 minutes a game or 37 minutes a game. So no one on the bench plays anything enough to get any fantasy value. So you know who to be. It's 5 people. There's 5 people worth owning on this team. There might be a few worth streaming. That's it.
Yeah, he's almost the anti-Pop, Pop's gonna play your guys weird minutes, weird rotations, 27, 28 minutes a game, and Tibbs is gonna run those guys in the ground. You're gonna get maximum value. Which also does, like, if someone leaves the team, like if Jimmy Butler went to another team and he only played 31 minutes, that would really affect his value. But Jimmy Butler has not done that. So, in fact, you could just bet on another 36, 37 minutes a night from Jimmy Butler this year, like clockwork. And you could probably also expect, 10 to 15 games of him sitting out with a mysterious leg injury that will end his career early. So, good luck, I guess, with Jimmy Butler. But I want to talk about Jimmy Butler actually because he's obviously the second highest ranked fantasy player on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I've been seeing Jimmy go very late in a lot of the mock drafts I've been watching, and Jimmy Butler is not like that baffles me.
It's not just mock drafts, man. Yahoo ADP 26.3. He is a third round pick in Yahoo leagues.
Yeah, no, like that's just that's incorrect. Like I don't know what to make of it. And, you know, I do lean heavily on Roto rankings because I am a Roto player, but in a 12-team standard league draft, if you account for all 9 categories, and even if you don't, I mean, this guy's an elite steals guy. He scores 22, 23 points a game. 5 rebounds, 5 assists, like that. You got that across the board production, good percentages. But here's where he's finished per game for the last 4 seasons: 10, 10, 15, 8. Consistent. 10, 10, 15, 8. So why is he ranked in the 3rd round by anyone? Do you have an answer to that, Tyler?
I have an answer. I don't agree with the answer, but I have an answer for you.
Okay, let me hear
last 3 years games: 67, 76, 59, gonna be 29 this season. I think that's why, right? People see the minutes that are insane, right? They've been insane for how many years now? And I think at some point people get in their own head a little bit and are like looking like, oh, this might be the year that he plays 59 again, or this might be the year that he plays 40, right? They kind of get in their own head and talk themselves out of it a little bit. I have him ranked 15th in my rankings, for what that's worth.
Yeah, in fact, I think we talked about this in the Oklahoma City podcast. You asked me if I finally have ranked Paul George over Jimmy Butler, and the answer was yes, I did, for that particular reason. Jimmy Butler is getting those Thibodeau legs, and he does consistently seem to miss 15, sometimes 20 games a year, but the starts that you get from him are all quality. And often those missed games do happen in the later half of the season. So he is a really good candidate to ride through into the All-Star break and then maybe try to move before that or right after the beginning of the year and, sell high on Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler's still in my top 15.
Well, here's what I'll say.
He is a second-tier player and like a mid-second-tier player now for me.
Yeah, if I'm picking on the turn, I probably can find somebody I like a little bit better than Butler in both spots. But if I'm picking even after in the 12-team league, even after like those first 2 or 3 picks in the Yahoo league, I'm probably going to own Jimmy Butler as my second-round player in every other situation. Like, he's going in the 3rd round in most leagues. Not in mine.
Yeah, he's not making it past the turn in a league that I'm in. And I would say he should not be making it well past the turn. He should not be making it to the middle of the 2nd round. Like that's just doesn't make any sense to me. I know some people in a head-to-head league might just say, okay, Westbrook, Ben Simmons, Embiid, all those guys should be drafted over Jimmy Butler. Okay, you can make that argument. That's fine. I just, as a Roto player and someone who really respects the amount of fantasy value that Jimmy Butler gives you, I'm still not. He's not leaving as a top 15 player in my draft. Yeah. Like, he's definitely going to be drafted in the first 15 play.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't really think there's much to say. I think we know what he is. The field goal percentage probably goes down a little bit from last year, I think. But I mean, also,
it was at 47.
Guys around, so I mean, maybe that's what boosted it, right? There's a lot of good scorers on that team.
Yeah, there are, and that probably helped. He did bump it up from 45 to 47. It probably reverts a little bit back down to that 45, 46 range. Other than that, low turnovers. So if you don't play in a turnover league because you don't like the challenge, of dealing with turnovers. You just want to go on easy mode for your fantasy draft and not have turnovers. Then Jimmy Butler's value does drop a little bit. But other than that, Jimmy Butler should be easily a second round player, and anyone who tells you differently is wrong. And I will stand right next to that one at the end of the season when I show you how he is ranked. And I promise to do that. All right. The rest of the squad, most of these players are not my favorite.
Do not hate
players.
on my favorite player, Mike. Do not do it.
Now, last year we've touted our horn about this, I think, enough. But this will be the last time we trump it out. That we were 100% right on Jeff Teague being a very decent to good point guard. A lot of people were out on him going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They figured he wasn't going to have the ball in his hand, blah, 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 blah. Turns out 14 points, 7 assists, which is one of the more elite assists guys in the league now, and 1.5 steals. All around, kind of across the board, solid player. Jeff Teague going into year 2 in Minnesota, how do you see his rankings for next year?
Oh, I'm doubling down. He's a top 50 guy, and there were a lot of sites out there telling you, oh, if you pick Jeff Teague, in the top 50, that you're doing it wrong with this transition to Minnesota.
People weren't even drafting him. Like that's how bad it got.
Well, I don't think that. I think they were picking him like 75, 80. And, I mean, I had Jeff Teague in pretty much every league I played in last year. And that'll probably happen again, right? ESPN ranks 74, Yahoo ADP 59.4. This is a top 50 player, people. He just is. Like, he's going to play huge minutes with Tibbs. He's going to shoot the ball well for point guard, like 44, 45%. He's going to shoot well from the free throw line. He's going to hit you. Okay, the threes aren't going to be great, but they're going to be at a relatively just above league average percentage. He's going to get you like 7 assists. Like, I don't see what there's not to like about Jeff Teague.
I agree. And when Jimmy Butler was out, he actually took a bigger role on the team, and his rankings went up. Like, he was scoring more, and he was just getting more usage. So he was taking more shots, scoring at the same clip, getting to the line a little bit more. So there is a potential there if you don't own Jimmy Butler that if something happens to Jimmy Butler, Jeff Teague does become more valuable in that case. So just kind of nothing but upside. I feel he's 30 years old, so he is on the second half of his prime, but I don't see why he wouldn't produce a very similar stat line as he did last year. And like you said, still being overlooked in drafts.
Yeah, this might be another vote for Karl-Anthony Towns. It's like, I can have this guy as my point guard at a 2-round value, right? Like, talking 74 to a top 50 player, like, that's a big value on ESPN. So, that's 2 full rounds of value you can get.
Yeah, you are going to be able to underdraft Jeff Teague this year. I'm pretty sure about that. All right, those are the main standard league relevant guys on this squad. But I feel like there is, like I said, another standard league relevant guy who's always underrated, and his name is Taj Mahal Gibson, one of the greatest underrated players in Bulls history. Perhaps. Maybe not teared up during the tribute video to Taj Gibson at the United Center, especially when he dunked all over Dwayne Wade in the playoffs. One of the greatest Taj Gibson moments. That's enough about Taj Gibson's storied career as an incredible Bulls player. Let's talk about his fantasy value. Very good year from Taj Gibson. Moved into the starting lineup, got rid of Gorgie Dang, basically told Gorgie Dang to hit the bricks, man. Get out of the country. Kicked him out of the country, Taj Gibson did, which is a pretty shitty thing to say. But Taj Gibson's talent was so good that Gorgie Dang, I think, voluntarily left the country. So Taj ended up getting 33 minutes a game, and he was a solid, good percentage, almost block, almost steal, 7 rebound, 12 point a night guy. Very consistent. is there anything going to change between last season and this season with Taj Gibson?
Probably not. Well, one thing is going to change, right? He's not going to play 82 games again. Most likely.
Yeah, probably not.
We talk about that a lot, right? That like playing 82 is just not something that happens a whole ton. And then playing 82 2 years in a row is real infrequent, right? Like Karl-Anthony Towns has done it every year of his career so far, but that's just not that common. So he probably misses a few games, like plays like 78.
Sure.
So if you're looking at like total values, right? Like you get on Basketball Monster or whatever and look at like total value rankings. I don't know that I draft him there because he did play all 82. The field goal percentage probably goes down a little bit in the sense that he shot 57.7, which is really, really high. Other than that, I mean, I think he's going to do pretty much all the same stuff. The points probably go down a little bit because the field goal percentage went down a little bit. So, I mean, he's a top 100 player.
He's definitely a top 100 player. Bielica is not on the team anymore. Bielica, that's probably how you say it. He's not on the team anymore, so that means, yeah, I'm working on my accents or my pronunciation, I would say. So Bielica not playing on the team, I think, is better for Taj Gibson's value, but I don't see Taj playing like significantly more minutes. I just think that it makes his role safer.
Well, I mean, 33, right? Like, there's probably not that many more minutes out there.
No.
Especially for a guy at, like you said, 33 years old. So he's 95th in Mark's rankings. I think that's relatively fair. I don't know that he's going to be like a top 75 player or anything. I think he's just inside the top 100. He's ranked 101 on Yahoo's, as far as Yahoo ADP, and ESPN, he is 137. So nice little value there on ESPN.
Too low on ESPN. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those players where, like, if you need something consistent, you forgot to solidify your big man bench, like, go for it. But other than that, the upside is not there with Taj Gibson. So if you avoided him, like, no one's going to be, laughing at you at the end of the draft. But I think he's just going to have another really consistent, good quality season where he's a top 100 player and he gives you good value night in and night out. So props to Taj Gibson. The last player that I am going to talk about, and then, Tyler, you can talk about whoever you want. I'm not going to talk about anybody else on this team. I mean, that's not true. I'm going to talk about Derrick Rose at some point. But the last person I'm going to talk about when it comes to fantasy is Andrew Wiggins. And what I'm going to say about that is I'm not drafting Andrew Wiggins. That's what I have to say about Andrew Wiggins. I'm not interested in Andrew Wiggins as a standard league player. But for some reason, Yahoo has him ranked 86th, and Mark's rankings actually have him at 82nd. So, now, Tyler, what am I missing something here, or where are you at with this?
So, I'll say two things. I'll explain to you why Mark's rankings have him so high. So, Mark's rankings use the last 3 seasons as a relative guide for what this player is going to do. And so if you look at the last 3 seasons, right, you see that in Mark's projections, he's projected for 20.4 points a game. And the whole reason for that is the last 3 years have been 20.7, 23.6, and 17.7 points a game. So you do some quick and dirty math, right? That averages out to relatively 20.4 points a game. So Mark projected relatively the same minutes he's got the last 3 years. So that worked the numbers out that way. I don't think we see that, right? I think that 17.7 that he got last year is probably more like what we see. So there is a big 3 points is a lot, right? 2.5 points is a lot. It's a big difference, especially for a guy that basically only scores. So that's where you see the big decrease there. And I don't know. You said you wouldn't draft him at all in a standard league, and then maybe this is my second point. If I'm a points-needy team and he's available like at ESPN, 124 next to the last pick, is there going to be anybody who's going to score 17 points a game with your last pick?
There might be. Like, I've seen Zach LaVine fall pretty far. I've seen Jabari Parker
Okay.
fall pretty far. There might be, again, if I'm in a pinch and there's just nobody else that late, and I was stupidly forgetting points. There's nobody else that late with 20 points. He does bring a category to a high level at what would be considered an end of the draft total value. So that is saying something, especially in your head-to-head leagues. So I get it. I understand why people are going to pick him up. I understand why he might be draftable in head-to-head leagues. I'm not drafting him. He's not good. He's a terrible fantasy player. He could score 20 points a game, perhaps. I doubt he's going to do that next year. But like, so what? Like, you're just giving me nothing else every single night other than points.
Well, and we talked about this.
Unless I'm desperate, I guess I guess 20 points is too elite to be streamable. It should be owned. Probably. I'm not going to own him.
We talked about this when he was getting the year before when he got the 23.6. It's like, okay, so that's a lot of points, and that's going to help you make up ground in that category. So maybe you try to acquire him, right? If like in a roto league, if the only category I can move up in is points, maybe I try to acquire him. But he actively kind of hurts your team in some other areas for where you would have to pick him. Like if you're in Yahoo League picking him 85th, like you're just doing it wrong in my opinion. Like he doesn't give you the value there. Like there's just nothing that you're like, man, he's really going to help me here other than points. And he has no mobility to go up, right? 35.1, 37.2, 36.3 minutes the last 3 years. Like he's not playing any more than that.
No, he's definitely not going to be playing. His usage couldn't be higher. In fact, his usage should go down. He took almost 16 field goal attempts last year, and Karl-Anthony Towns, who's one of the most efficient and best scorers in the league, only took 14. What's wrong with this picture?
Well, I think this team would be a lot better if they traded him. Being honest, like if in real basketball perspective.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Get rid of him. Don't need him. Doesn't fit a role.
So I'll say though that there maybe is a spot where you do draft him, but here's the other thing too. Like in a standard league, now in a deeper league, I might have to draft him if I really need points. But okay, but in a standard league, like if he's even going to be like one of my last couple picks, I probably want someone with some upside in those picks. Number one, and number two, I want somebody that I can cut if they're doing bad. Like Andrew Wiggins is just going to do Andrew Wiggins stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't really want him either. In a standard league, I don't really want him. I don't.
No, I don't want him at all. Like I said, and
begrudging pick by me if I own him.
Yeah, like if it's late in the draft, like Dennis Smith. If you're looking for points, Dennis Smith Jr., T.J. Warren. If guys like that are available, like why am I who do something else other than score, but do score maybe not to the level of 17, 18 points a game like Andrew Wiggins. Okay, cool. Like I still just much rather have Eric Gordon or Brandon Ingram instead of Andrew Wiggins. Just every single time. Not interested in Andrew Wiggins. I'm never gonna own him on any team.
Fair enough.
All right, the rest of this team. Do we even need to talk about Tyus Jones, Gorgeous Dong Dang? Do we need to talk about him?
So he played 17 minutes a game last year. And this is kind of the point I wanted to make with these two players is one played 17.1 or 16.9 and the other one played 17.9 minutes a game last year.
It just makes them not relevant.
Tibbs just doesn't play the bench. So even if you're thinking about these guys in a deeper league, like it's just so hard because Tibbs just doesn't give them any minutes.
And he's not going to. He's not going to change. Nothing new is going to happen there. I guess Gorgie Dang might be like a flyer you take in a very large league because perhaps if there is an injury of some sort and he can start getting 24, 25, 26 minutes in that range, he does become pretty valuable when it comes to fantasy. He is a good fantasy across the board type producer in a 9-cat league. But other than that, in a very deep league, I just can't really recommend any of the players on this team. But if we can, all you kids out there, go look up Derrick Rose MVP highlights and just, pour one out, because my God, that man was beautiful to watch play basketball. All you haters out there, I don't need to hear any trash from you. You know nothing.
What I think
that's it for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Part about that is the people who still think Derrick Rose is the best point guard on this team.
Yeah, the Derrick Rose. I love Derrick Rose, and I'm a huge Derrick Rose fan, but I'm not a Derrick Rose stan. Like, I'm aware of that he is no longer talented at a I don't even know if he's a backup point guard. I think he could be a backup point guard in certain situations, but that's his ceiling now because of the horrible injuries that he has suffered over the last 5-6 years. So the people who think he's great, I have no idea what you're talking about. But what's worse are the people who think Derrick Rose was not that good. You are wrong. You are ignorant, and you have no idea how basketball works. That's what I have to say about you fools.
Well, and the game also changed very quickly in that time too, right? Like, Derrick Rose never been a good 3-point shooter. And so
but neither was Russell Westbrook. Neither was Russell Westbrook, and he averaged a triple-double and won an MVP.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying
Derrick Rose.
I'm not saying there was
that good.
And Derrick Rose was great, right? That MVP year, but for even Derrick Rose to be a backup now, right? The game has evolved to where people want a lot of floor spacing on those second units, and he just doesn't provide it, and he doesn't have the athleticism to get to the rim the way he did in that MVP year. So it's even hard for me to get on board and say, like, he's deserving of a 25-minute backup role now. Like,
yeah,
he had his moment.
He doesn't. You have to be pretty elite to not have a shot.
Right. And unfortunately, you know what I mean? Like, the injuries robbed him. We can both agree on that. But unfortunately, like, his day probably has passed him by for the most part.
Rest in peace. Pour one out. Respect always, Derrick Rose. I think that's enough waxing out about Derrick Rose. And I think that's it for the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you liked what you heard, we're continuing our 30 teams in over 30 days series. Please send us feedback on Twitter. You can find me at Watch the Boxes. You can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts, Watts. Feel free to tweet at us with questions, comments, feedback, stuff you want to hear on the pod going into the preseason. We will take all your feedback and we will incorporate that into the content that we are going to provide. And if you like what you're hearing, rate and review us online. That helps. Tell a friend. That helps more. But most of all, what helps is subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. If you subscribe, you'll get access to content exclusive to only Patreon subscribers. You can join Tyler's Dynasty League or my boring redraft league, which won't be that boring, I assume. There also, the winner of those is going to get a prize. The winner of the redraft league is going to get a prize. I can't speak to Tyler's league, but the winner of the redraft league will get a prize sent to them. So that's, pretty cool. And we also have some higher echelon rewards for subscribers. You can talk to us via chat. We're going to do personal Q&As with subscribers who have certain statuses. So check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. We will be back with another team in our 30 for 30 soon. Thanks, everybody. So your mic is a little like every, I'd say, like 5 or 6 minutes, your mic would kind of like almost like stutter, or like your connection would stutter. So I don't know if there's a way to make that better, if you reconnected and disconnected, reconnected or something.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry, I stepped out. What's up? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? No,
Yeah.
you can't hear me.
So
Is it worse? Better?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fine. Like the connection was fine, but like it never fixed itself. So it'd be like you'd be talking, all of a sudden it'd be like glitch, and then it would pick back up, and I was like, I feel like there's been enough of those where someone might say something, but like it wasn't bad.
Okay. I don't know what the hell it was. Who the fuck?
I don't know. You sound much better now. So
okay, that's
right.
Good.
Who the fuck is left here? The Raptors?
Oh yeah, the Kawhi Leonards.
All right, let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry to your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Michael, are you having a good day today?
Tyler. No, I'm not having a good day.
Why? Someone ate your Wheaties?
My phone bad. No, I don't eat cereal, man. Cereal's a scam.
I have not eaten a bowl of cereal in the last 6 years.
It's probably been 15 for me. I don't believe in cereal. I think it's a scam for
what do you eat for breakfast?
The farmers to sell corn-based products. I'm half serious about that, actually. I just don't care for cereal. I don't wake up. I don't really eat anything in the morning. I'm not a breakfast person.
All right. So what's your first meal today then? Just lunch? Just whatever's knocking around?
The most important meal of the day is lunch.
So what's the best lunch Mike had in the last 2 weeks?
Ooh, that's a good question. I had a really good pastrami sandwich from a deli down the street. It was quality as well as they made the pastrami themselves. It's well roasted. It had good. It was a well made sandwich. Good bread. Bread's very important on a sandwich. Yeah, respect to Rosie's Deli up in Chicago. Check it out.
Patreon.com/Rosie's Deli.
Yeah, right off maybe I think California, right off California up there. Shout out. If you want to sponsor the show, I'm in. Pay me in subs. I'm 100. Your sandwiches are too good.
All right.
Enough of the free plug. No, go ahead.
As I said, now we know where to get a good sandwich in Chicago.
Yeah, if anybody out there is visiting Chicago, wants some recommendations on places to drink, places to eat, tweet at me. I'll happily give you my recommendations at Watch the Boxes. And if you're ever in rural Delaware, where are you at, Tyler?
Pennsylvania. You are close.
Oh, so close. Rural Pennsylvania at Tyler P. Watts. I always forget. Those East Coast states are so close together. They're so small. I don't pay attention to them.
You couldn't find the place where I live on a map if I told you where it was.
It's probably true. I'm from a place like that, so there's nothing wrong with being from a small town anywhere. There's nothing wrong with being from Iceland. Like our boys, I keep mentioning the Iceland people. I'm just surprised we have fans in Iceland. I always shout them out for now. They're gonna get all the shout outs. But I also want to give a shout out to one of our new Patreons, Jake Morrell. Thanks, Jake. We really appreciate you joining our Patreon. Being a subscriber, you're gonna get access to exclusive content, exclusive podcasts, rankings, and other content from me and Tyler over on patreon.com/watching the boxes. So if you're out there, you want to support the show, or you're interested in getting exclusive content this preseason, or joining Tyler's Dynasty League, which we might have to start a second Dynasty League. There's been so much interest into this thing. Or you want to get in Mike's Redraft League, not as much interest in the Redraft League, surprising for all the hardcore Dynasty people out there. Go to patreon.com/watching the boxes, subscribe, and you will get an entry into one of those leagues. I feel like it's going to be a pretty good couple listener leagues we got going on, Tyler.
I feel like it's going to be very competitive as always.
Yeah, I think so. And you're going to get those rules out there one of these days once we figure out how Patreon works. I think the rules are ready, right?
I finished them like a week ago. I just can't get them up there because I'm not smart or brainy enough to learn how to use the Patreon. Someday I'll learn.
Yeah, well, we're going to figure that out real soon. They might be up there right now. So patreon.com/watching the boxes. Thank you to all our Patreon subscribers, especially Jake. Right on, Jake. Thank you for subscribing. Let's talk about the team that we have in our 30 teams in over 30 days series that we are continuing here. And we are going to be talking about some of the more interesting teams now. We're finally getting into that mode. Our early ones, those are the teams that are mostly pretty set. There's a couple interesting teams back there. Please go check those out. Listen to those. They're pretty damn good. But we're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors. So just a few episodes ago, we were talking about the Spurs, and obviously the Raptors were on the other side of this trade, getting Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard from the Spurs, and also signing Greg Monroe. For some reason, Greg Monroe being drafted in Yahoo mock drafts. So I feel like late in those drafts, like if you look at the ADP and you sort by it, all the late round guys are either like pretty good expert like sleeper guys or dudes that people heard of 3 years ago and are still drafting for some reason.
Well, I think too that early in the year, some people just want someone, right, that they've seen do it, and then if they're not getting the role that they want them to get, they just going to use that spot to drop and pick out somebody else. So, I mean, I guess I understand if you're not that plugged in that you pick someone that you've just heard of before, right? Greg Monroe was good at fantasy 5 years ago.
Cool. Yeah. Don't do that, everybody. Listen to this podcast and take our advice. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. But also, a lot of people, by the end of the draft, they're not drafting anymore. Everybody's out by the 6th, 7th round. So it's been pretty hard to gauge those late rounds, but we've been participating in a few of these drafts with some experts around the fantasy universe, some of our friends at Basketball Monster and others who have been on the show, like Alex Rickleen. And there's kind of some pretty good insight on what's going in those later rounds. And we have an exclusive podcast up on the Patreon with the audio from the mock draft past round 7. So the one currently in whatever you are listening to this to, rounds 1 through 7, after the 7th round, check it out on the Patreon, patreon.com/watching the boxes.
So do
Another
I have
shameless
to listen?
plug.
Do I have to listen through twice? If I already listened to 1 through 7, is that still on the Patreon one, or is it just start at 7?
It is on the Patreon, so you don't have to listen to it because there's this new thing where people can fast forward through stuff on their phones. But if you want to listen to the whole thing all at once, it's on the Patreon. Check it out. It's cool.
Oh, all right. I'm just for listener clarity. I was just making sure.
No, I appreciate the clarity, Tyler. So the Toronto Raptors, they lost to DeMar DeRozan, their franchise player. They're the player that's won them the most games, brought them the most glory, and up and coming superstar or second tier bench player, however you want to look at it, Jakob Poeltl, whose name I learned how to say. And like I said, Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green on the team. So Tyler, what is the most interesting thread going into Toronto's season next year?
Well, I
I
mean,
think this
that's
is an
pretty
easy one. This is a toss-up.
This is
Softball.
this is the easiest one yet, right? It's the health of Kawhi Leonard. What is Kawhi Leonard going to do this year?
Yeah, that is the correct answer. Usually this is an ambiguous question, but this time you've gotten a few of these questions wrong, Tyler. I just want to let you know. But this one you've gotten deadly right.
Well, no, because
right.
half the time you ask me what's the most interesting thing to me. So that could be anything, Mike. I you know me, I'm in those weird leagues. I like looking at the 12th guy on the bench for the Raptors, man. Just I'm all kinds of strange.
That is very true, and that does sometimes mean you are wrong. I hate to break it to you. This is not a subject. This is not an ambiguous question. There's a right and wrong answer to all these questions. You got most of them right though, and this one you got 100% right. Kawhi Leonard. I don't know what to make of this guy. Really strangely injured, off the grid, weird agent uncle issues. Even when he signed with
I
the
had some
Toronto Raptors
uncle issues once, man. Let me tell you what, that was not a good time in my life.
You know, I want some agent uncle issues. Agent Uncle sounds like a really terrible movie, you know, starring Jerry Lewis or something like that. Some terrible 50s movie.
That was the most
nobody
random,
wants to watch except for your grandpa.
that was the most random name drop I think you've ever made.
What, Jerry Lewis? And I think I had a Donald Rumsfeld drop earlier. So really hitting the deep cuts out here in what is this? Is this season 3 for us, Tyler?
Yeah, it is, man. We're getting old. We've been around a long time.
You got to reach down deep into the Jerry Lewis level to keep up with the kids out here who are coming up in the watching or the fantasy basketball podcast arena out there. A lot of good podcasts out there. Not too many of them, probably none of them better than this one. But the Raptors. Let's really talk about Kawhi Leonard. Do you trust him? Do you trust his health? Do you trust that he wants to play for the Toronto Raptors?
Let's throw that part out first. Okay. I'm going to tell you he's going to play exactly 76 games.
Okay.
Where are you going to rank Kawhi Leonard?
In a Roto League, probably 6th. And in a head-to-head league, maybe 8, 7 or 8. 8.
Right. And so he could be in that first tier, right? We kind of talk about those like 1A, 1B tiers, whatever. Like he could be in that.
He's if he's healthy and he plays a lot of games and he's committed to playing, he's a 1B player, and there's no argument about it.
So he played how many games last year, Mike? Do you know the answer to this question?
-6.
9.
Right?
He played exactly 9.
So good.
The downside is obviously nothing. I mean, if you got 9 games from your first or second round pick, you got absolutely nothing from that player, basically.
Yeah, I'm very aware of that, Tyler. I'm very aware of how many games, not the games, but the value that Kawhi Leonard gave me last year. I'm still upset about it.
So here's what I'll say.
Since a lot of people are probably upset about it, well, a lot of people are going to be upset and worried about it, which means you're probably going to give them a little bit of a discount this year if healthy.
But you are, but you're not, right? His Yahoo ADP is 12.6. So relatively right there in the first / maybe beginning in the second round. His ESPN rank is 11.
Yeah, but a top five player with the 12th pick is undervalued.
100%. But there's also, he's the riskiest of the top players, right? Can we agree on that? Like no player up there is giving you as much risk as Kawhi Leonard. So here's what I know about the injury, and here's what I've heard lately. Then I'll tell you where I ranked him. Does that sound good?
Hit it. Let me hear it.
Okay. So what I know about the injury, it is a chronic degenerative injury. Those are some big words. So I will explain.
I've heard about the chronic,
So what does
but
that
I haven't
mean?
heard about the rest of that stuff.
What's chronic mean?
Marijuana.
No, not like that.
You got to smoke that chronic.
No. Okay, so chronic basically means it's going to persist, right? It's going to keep coming back. It is a chronic injury. It is degenerative, meaning it only gets worse. Neither one of those two things,
I don't like either one of those words.
Right? Neither one of those sound very good. Now, here's the positives. He's 27 years old. Depending on who you listen to, a lot of people think he was healthy enough to play last year. The Spurs medical doctors gave him clearance, and he chose to see another doctor in New York who didn't think he was healthy enough to play. Take that for what it's worth. So, reports out of Toronto since the trade, he looks amazing. He's working out really hard. He looks good in workouts. He looks like the old Kawhi Leonard. He looks better than the old Kawhi Leonard.
He also might have said he didn't want to play for Toronto.
All that said, I think I'm taking him 9th. I'm ranking him 9th. Where I'm taking him depends on my draft, what kind of draft it is, how big the draft is, right? If it's a deeper league, I'll probably be scared to take him in the first round, because if I get 9 games out of my first round pick in a 20-team league, I'm losing.
Yep. You will not win your draft in the first round, but in the first couple rounds, but you can lose it. And for a lot of people last year, Kawhi Leonard, that happened for him.
And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, if I pick Kawhi Leonard in my first round, it's eliminating a few guys as far as second-round picks, right? Like, I don't really want Joel Embiid or Chris Paul or maybe even Jimmy Butler as my second-round pick, because those guys have a little bit more injury risk than some other guys. And so if I have 2 guys with quite a bit of injury risk, right, like that's a good way to tank my season too, because if I lose my first 2 picks, I'm definitely going down even in a standard league. So
yeah.
So Kawhi Leonard takes a lot of thought. Does that make sense? But I think I'm ranking him 9th. Will I pick him 9th every time? The answer to that question is no.
So what's weird is it's almost like he's reverted back to where we were ranking him last year, when we knew nothing about the injury and it seemed like he was definitely going to play in the first week. And it seems like we're right back in the same spot, yet we are hearing a lot more reports that he is healthy, that he is playing, he is practicing, he is putting in the work. So that's much, much more positive, yet people are treating him kind of like, oh no, I still don't know how healthy he's going to be. I don't know what he's going to do this year. From what I've seen in most drafts, he lasts to the end of the first round, and then he goes either at the beginning of the second round or the end of the first round. And I can't. I don't know if you can pass after that. I ended up in the mock draft that I did. I took him 11th. I took Paul George 11th overall, and Kawhi Leonard went 12th to Josh Lloyd. Okay, and that's perfectly fine for me until I see Kawhi Leonard in preseason playing on a court and giving a crap about basketball. I'm okay with skipping him in the first round. But the second I see him look healthy and like he's going to be old Kawhi Leonard, he should not be making it out of the top 8 or 9.
So the Raptors play 4 preseason games, I believe. So say in the first one he plays 15 minutes. And he looks good.
Cool. Okay.
And then say
I'm almost sold.
In the second one he plays 20 minutes.
Great.
And in the third one he plays 20 minutes again, and in the fourth one he sits out.
I was going to say the third one he sits, and then the fourth, maybe he sits the last 2.
Okay. Are you feeling better, worse, or the same? Because if he only plays 15 or 20 minutes.
I'm feeling better.
Feeling better. If he only plays 15 or 20 minutes, I may be kind of feeling a little worse about it. Now, I don't think they need to ramp him up and play him huge minutes, but no, I don't know, man. There's so
I'm feeling better because I'll have more information. I'll have more information about how he looks, how he plays.
Well, I mean,
if he looks great in this 15 minutes and he only plays 15 minutes, he's going to play 30 when the season comes around. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think they would play him 15 minutes if he could only play 15 minutes. They'd play him 0 minutes if he could only play 15 minutes.
I mean, we saw it though last year, right? I mean, he played 23 minutes a game. He looked really good in those 23 minutes, right? I mean, he
He
got 2
did.
steals and a block a game in 23 minutes.
Yeah. He looked
But
very good.
23 minutes is not enough to make him a first round pick or even a second round pick.
No, but that's not going to happen.
Right. And so
He's either going to be a complete bust like he was last year, or he's going to be somewhere between, I would say, 75 and 90% of old Kawhi.
Okay, so
That's my bell curve.
One more one I want to hash out with you. And you can say this doesn't matter to you, or you can say whatever you want, right? So the Raptors are definitely a playoff team. Would you agree with that? Like in this Eastern Conference, they're definitely going to make the playoffs.
Yep.
So let's say, I don't know, they're rolling along. They have the best record, the second best record, the third best record, but there's no way they slip much past 4th or 5th seed. So there's like 10, 15 games left, and they just sit Kawhi out. Are you really thinking that's like
depressing? I'm not factoring that in.
Yeah, I'm not factoring into my draft either. But here's something I'll say: like this team doesn't have to push him, right? Like they're going to be a playoff team. He's their best player by far. So I'm not ruling out some weird resting or maybe just at some point just being like, oh, we're going to get Kawhi healthy for the playoffs. We're just going to sit him out for a while.
Yeah, there's still there's still question marks, and you're 100% right about that. There's question marks about his longevity. There's question marks about how hard they push him. There's question marks about maybe his playoff schedule, even people who play head to head who are always interested in playoff schedules before they even draft, which doesn't make any sense to me. But you got to get to the playoffs to care about the playoffs. That's how I view my head to head leagues. But these feel like a lot of in-season decisions. If Kawhi Leonard is going to start in the first game, he's going to play starters minutes, and he looks healthy and he looks like old Kawhi Leonard, there's no reason he should slip out of the first round. So if you're at the end of the first round, he's a great value at the end of the first round. And he's also someone you're going to want to be pretty hands-on in monitoring and deciding on what to do with him during the season. It definitely feels like there's enough risk there to try to move him, try to sell high on him at some point during the season, depending on what's going on. Other than that, I just don't know how you let him slip out of the first round.
I'm with you. Until we see him play, though, I will say this: it's based on your risk tolerance. If you're a really risk averse person, you don't want to deal with any kind of risk. I wouldn't pick Kawhi Leonard in my first round until you've seen him play on the court.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. Kind of I'm feeling Paul George this year, everybody. Just throwing that out there. Let's talk about the other fantasy, I guess, top fantasy guy on this team, Kyle Lowry, who just is like a fine wine. He gets better with age, and he is getting up there in age, certainly. And we say this maybe every single year. He's 32 and a half. He's going to be 33 at some point during the season. We say this every year. Kyle Lowry's going to fall off, right? And often during the second half of the season, he starts the season out like a lunatic, like an absolute maniac. And then the second half of the season, he does kind of fall off. Last year, he went from playing 37 minutes to 32 minutes. His points went down. His assists actually went up. They stayed the same. Sorry, but his rebounds went up. His assists went up a little, actually, when you look at the second half of the season. And what was a big red flag to me is that his steals went down. That's a big red flag. But other than that, he did a lot of Kyle Lowry things. It did seem like he moved possibly a tier down from one of those top tier point guards to maybe one of those second or third tier type of point guards. Going into this season and having someone else who's going to be able to take the burden of ball handling from Kawhi Leonard, allegedly, since we think Kawhi's going to play, do you think Kyle Lowry's fantasy value is going to just stay the same, or do you think we're going to finally see the big drop off that everybody's been predicting for the last 3 years with Kyle Lowry?
So here's a question I'll pose to you and something I was thinking about this afternoon. So DeMar DeRozan averaged how many assists per game last year, Mike?
Oh, I want to say 5.
Yeah, right. 5.2. The last 3 years it had been 4, 3.9, and 5.2 as Kyle Lowry's running mate. Kawhi Leonard isn't going to do that probably, right? At least he hasn't in his time with the Spurs. He's never been a big ball in his hands, pass type guy. I mean, he's a good scorer and he can do a lot of things, but Kawhi Leonard's
a facilitator,
right? He's always more like 3.5 assists. So, could there be more assists out there for Kyle Lowry?
I mean, perhaps, but I'm not banking on that at all, because Kawhi does have the offense run through him, and sometimes he does go a little ISO. I know DeMar DeRozan also did that as well, so it's I just don't see Kyle Lowry suddenly jumping into I guess what I would say 8-9 assist territory. 7 assists is pretty good. 7 assists seems to be right in my opinion. 8, 9, 10 assists from Kyle Lowry, I'm gonna go with a no.
Okay, so then we look at the steals. Are those coming back?
Usually when the steals go, they go.
So Kawhi rebounds the ball better than DeMar DeRozan, so the rebounds are probably going to go down some.
Yeah, they're at least going to stay the same. They're not going to go up.
Here's something we'll maybe talk about in a little bit. Are they finally going to play Valanciunas a little bit more now that there's a new coach? The new coach has apparently been raving about Valanciunas, right? We talk about that in a minute, but I don't see any way that there's upward mobility in rebounds. Let's leave it at that for a second.
That's fair.
I think probably they go down closer to 5.
Sure.
Maybe even a little further. So
that's normal.
He's probably not going to score more.
No.
Right? So I just
might take the extra shot here and there, but 3 3-pointers, it's pretty good, pretty elite.
Right. But I just don't see a ton of upward mobility. So
yeah, he's
23rd, 23.8 ADP on Yahoo, 34 on ESPN. I mean, as a 32-year-old point guard, I'd much rather have Kyle Lowry as my 3rd pick than my 2nd, and I just don't really think you're going to get that except for maybe on ESPN. So I'm probably out on Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in Kemba Walker, Jrue Holiday, Eric Bledsoe, that tier of guards, simply because they're a little bit younger. And even though Kyle Lowry often does perform better than them, at least in the last 4 years, those guys are a little bit more consistent, and they're not on the kind of the downturn. They're not 32 years old. So still, I think that that 30 to 40 range seems super fair for Kyle Lowry. I think a lot of people have been assuming Kyle Lowry's on his way out. And if you took him around 30, 34 because the other guards have been taken, I don't think I can fault you, because it's a pretty hard drop off to the next tier.
Oh, I'm with you there. And in ESPN, he's probably on my table, but in Yahoo, when he's a 2nd round pick,
no,
that's not for me. I got lots more guys I'd rather have in the 2nd round than him. So yeah, so I'm out. So if you're a Yahoo guy, I'm probably would steer clear of Mr. Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, that just 2nd round is too early. 3rd round, late 3rd round, depending on how many other point guards are left, feels a lot better. Would you rather have? You have to have him. You can't trade him. How about this? You cannot trade
draft
this guy.
And hold?
You have to draft and hold. You cannot trade this guy. You have to start him, even if he's not playing. So this is a weird question. Kyle Lowry or Chris Paul?
Whew. Give me Chris Paul.
You're probably going to get more games out of Kyle Lowry. You're probably going to get better games out of Chris Paul.
Well, and I think I like Chris Paul's
I
chances of being elite in steals, right? He's probably going to get you the same amount or more assists. Their scoring is going to be relatively the same. Lowry will rebound more, shoot more threes probably, but I don't know. I feel plus Chris Paul's percentages was just so much better, especially from the field, right? Like 42 for Lowry. Like Chris Paul's gonna shoot much better than that. Yeah, give me Chris Paul.
Same question. Okay, I think I'm with you there. I like Chris Paul. I think people are a little bit out on Chris Paul, and I think that is incorrect. Chris Paul is gonna do Chris Paul things. Like he's gonna look like he looked like last year, and I'm kind of hoping he's a little bit healthier than he was last year. I'm not gonna cross my fingers, hold my breath, or anything, but.
We talked about
same
that.
question.
It was a low watermark in the last 5 years for Chris Paul last year, so I think he's going to be somewhat healthier.
Yeah, that was the worst case scenario. We did talk about in the Houston episode about Chris Paul. All right, same question: Kyle Lowry or Kyrie Irving?
Now that's tough. I'm going to go Kyrie. I just feel like there's a lot more ceiling, but man, Kyrie's another guy that I don't own very often.
No, I feel like I might own him a little bit this year.
Oh, are we down?
I think people are a little down on Kyrie Irving. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a little early to get the feel for his temperature.
The last couple of years, I can remember people saying like they're taking him over Jimmy Butler, and I'm just like, what? I'm so confused here.
Yeah, but Jimmy Butler apparently never gets any respect from the fantasy community. All right. This Toronto team, after Kyle Lowry, after the new and improved Kawhi Leonard, takes a pretty decent drop, but there's a few more fantasy relevant guys on this team, and you've already mentioned the one I think is the biggest question mark, so let's just talk about him. Jonas Valanciunas, the forever man, look at this guy's per 36-minute guy. Last season played 22 minutes. Still 13 points, 8.5 rebounds with a block in 22 minutes, 22 and a half minutes a game. Also hit the occasional three. Just throwing that out there. You said the coach is interested in playing him a little bit more. That would drastically move up his value. Let's just do the minutes per game. What's the over-under on minutes per game for Jonas Valanciunas this year?
Okay, so I would say, right, the safe over-under is probably like 25 and a half.
That's it. That is correct. You nailed that one. 25 and a half feels right.
And I'm going to go slightly over. I think he plays like 26 minutes a game, which say what you want about that. Okay, like that's not a lie, and your starting center, right? If I draft Jonas Valanciunas, your starting center is going to play more. But he's going to give me 9 rebounds in 26 minutes. He's going to give me pretty darn close to, if not over a block. He's going to give me like 12 to 13 points. He's going to shoot really good percentages. I mean, it's even in 26 minutes, he's kind of interesting.
He's definitely interesting in 26 minutes. He's definitely a standard league player, I think, even in 24, 23 minutes. He was last year in 22 minutes. He was standard league relevant. A frustrating own because you see him play 22 minutes and get like 15 and 11, and you're like, why can't he play more? If he does play more, if he plays 30, like, so the upside right there, like that's kind of where, even though I think he should be ranked a little lower overall, like if I had to bet on where he's going to finish, I might bring him up in my rankings a little bit simply because of the minutes upside. If he ends up playing 27, 28, 30 minutes a game, I don't think that's likely, but it's not impossible, then his value does go up quite a bit. And where he gets that value is not just from like the incredible points and rebounds per minute. He throws in that block. He's got a half a steal probably in that time period, or within that range, and he has elite percentages. So he's just much more valuable in a 9-cat roto league than most leagues. You know, if you're in a head-to-head league, blah blah blah, punting, blah blah blah, then make your adjustments. All right, I'm not going to make those adjustments for you. In an overall 9-cat league with the low turnovers, the high percentages from a center, is there a chance he's a top 50 player if he plays 28 minutes a game?
Chance, right? What is the percentage? Probably not that good.
Does he play 28? I'm thinking it's about 50-50. He's either almost a top 50 player. Actually, I'd say if he plays 28 minutes a game, he's a top 50 player. I'm going to go out and say it. In 9-cat across the board leagues, he's a top 50 player if he plays 28 minutes a game. Sorry, you broke up. Hello?
So one last thing I'll say, and this is why I don't think he gets 28 minutes.
You broke up again. Your mic's going out.
Can you hear me now? 1 second.
Cool.
Are we good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So one last thing on Valanciunas is the coach, Nick Nurse, was the coach. He was actually the G League coach for the Rockets a couple years ago. And he really was the man they credited for kind of architecting that offense a little bit more last year, where they went a little more pace and space and shot a little more threes. So that's the one reason I don't think Jonas gets a ton of minutes is obviously, okay, he's shown that he can shoot an occasional three, but he's an unwilling three-point shooter. So I don't think they're going to give him a ton of minutes, but even at 26, right, like he's still interesting. He's probably a top 65, 70 player in 26 minutes.
He definitely is. I would agree with that. He's definitely he's kind of like in those later center groups with your Steven Adams and stuff like that. And I think he's worth picking up if you champion percentages. He's definitely worth picking up in that 60, 70, 80 range. Just simply because if his minutes go up, so does his value.
Oh, guys who get 10 rebounds a game are getting less and less. Like he's giving you 9. Like that's a lot of rebounds.
Yeah, he's already given you 8 to 9, so that is valuable enough to be standard league relevant. Let's talk about the other big on this team. Serge Ibaka, once a top tier caliber fantasy player with I mean he was blocking shots left and right way back in the day. Has almost become maybe one of the top 3 overlooked players in the league. I feel like everyone is out on Serge Ibaka. For some reason, ESPN ranks him at 159th, which is just asinine.
If you don't own him in your ESPN league, you're doing it wrong, probably.
Yeah, hell, what? Pick 100. You'll probably still get him. No one's paying attention. I just don't know what's going on here. I get that his blocks aren't 2.5; they're 1. But he's hitting 3-pointers. He's getting his 6 to 7 rebounds. He's not good at assists, and everyone should already know that. His points are mediocre. Everybody should know that. But his percentages are good. His turnovers are good. I guess if you don't care about that stuff, it does drop his rankings quite a bit. But seeing him slip into the 90s is just a little too far for me. I just don't understand. I don't understand where that's coming from, other than he's just not a sexy player. You know who he is. You know what he's gonna do, and he's not interesting by any means. But he's definitely a top 80 player in the league.
Yeah, right. I actually think the Yahoo ADP of 82.3 is about right. I'm probably not picking him in Yahoo just because I don't feel like there's a ton of of value in that pick, right? Like that's probably about where he is. But yeah, on ESPN, I mean, dude, yeah, like you said, pick 100, I'll take him. Pick 110, I'll take him. Probably, I mean, I'm probably gonna try to play the board a little bit and wait till like 120 and hope I can snag him.
Yeah,
there's not a ton of upside here, and I think we can both agree on that, right? Like he's a top, he's probably going to be ranked at the end of the season somewhere between 75 and 90, but there's not a ton of upside.
That's really fair. Like if you wanted to go DeAndre Ayton instead, okay, cool. Like I get you're going for the upside, you're going for the big swing. That's if you've already made some big swings and you need someone safe, Serge Ibaka's probably going to be waiting for you. And I feel like I've just seen him drop in a lot of leagues for a guy who's, like you said, is like somewhere around 80.
Well,
and it's surprising.
You mentioned it, though. It's the narrative, right? Like, oh, he used to block 3 shots a game. We're not looking at his value anymore. We just think he's trash because he can't do that. Well, that's not really the case.
Yeah, it feels like he's getting DeMarre Carroll respect. And I know Serge Ibaka replaced DeMarre Carroll, but he's better than DeMarre Carroll at fantasy and in real life. So, I just said don't let him slip by you. If you see him late in those rounds, just pay attention that he's being overlooked. He will probably continue to be overlooked. I guess maybe, I don't know if there's an argument out there that his playing time might go down a little bit in Toronto. Yeah, I don't see why it would.
I mean, he only played 27.5 last year. Like, how much further down is it going to go? Like, who are they going to play over him?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be too much of a OG Anunoby. Like,
it's all that Pascal Siakam love.
Yeah, a lot of Siakam nonsense. I mean, let's talk about those guys. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, both. I feel like get a lot of name recognition for having really hard to say names. Even I can say them correctly. A lot of people kind of like their upside. A lot of people are liking what they got going on. Fantasy-wise, I just don't see where they're going to bring any value.
I'm with you there. I mean, they're 133rd is Pascal Siakam in Mark's rankings. If you like 8 points and 5 rebounds and a good field goal percentage, like there's just nothing here. And OG Anunoby, right? We could talk. Maybe he gets a lot more minutes this year, but I mean, he played 20 minutes a game last year. He scored 6 points. Like, must I say more?
Yeah, these guys are better real basketball players than they are fantasy basketball players. And for that reason, I'm just, I think a lot of people hear how deep Toronto is, and they go, okay, great. Those guys must be good at fantasy because they're good at regular basketball. That's just not how it works. And I don't even know, even in deeper leagues, how much I'd be targeting those two guys. And I mean, maybe if they're going to get extended minutes, a little bit more minutes than you had planned on, I guess that would be a good reason to target them. I don't see them shaping up as fantasy relevant at all.
There's one guy would in the deeper league target, and that's Fred VanVleet. I just feel like if Kyle Lowry does miss some time, he's going to get some more minutes. In 20 minutes game last year, he got 3.2 assists and a steal. Like that's pretty nice for a guy. You know what I mean? Especially in a deeper league. Like, if I can have this guy at pick 1, I mean, we'll look at his rankings. ESPN 154. Okay, if I can have him at pick 150 as kind of a handcuff point guard in like a league where I'm picking 200 guys, I might be in on that.
Yeah.
Yahoo is at 119 ADP. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't think he's really a standard league guy, but
that's a little too early. I think that 130, 140 range would be perfectly fine if I'm in a deeper league. He's a backup point guard. Backup point guards are a little bit more valuable, I think, in those bigger leagues. And like you said, he's a guy who could take over the main role if something happened and produce decent fantasy value. So that's someone. If I'm in a big league, I'm targeting. I don't even know if he becomes a streamer. He might become a streamer a little bit in standard leagues if his minutes go up. I I guess the last guy we kind of forgot about this guy. Green at one point was incredibly fantasy relevant. He's now on this team in Toronto, and he has a role to play in Toronto. Like I don't know if he'll start, but it certainly sounds like he could start at the 2, or at least play decent minutes off the bench.
I'll say this.
Do you see Danny Green coming back to shooting a decent percentage and being fantasy relevant, or do you feel like Danny Green is who he is?
He is a great streamer in a very specific scenario where you need a block and a steal at the end of the week in a head-to-head matchup. Because he always averages damn near a block and a steal per game.
Yeah, he's a block steal guy. He's a block steal 3 guy, and those are pretty rare, and those are worth streaming. He only played 25 minutes in San Antonio. I could see him maybe playing a few more minutes in Toronto, but not like significant enough for me to go, all right, I'm drafting him, or he's going to be a sleeper. He's still shooting under 40%. I don't know if that ever comes back like that one season where he actually shot well and was like a top, I don't know, was he a top 50 player? He's like a top 30 player. He was great that one year, and then he just fell right back off, and I feel like he's been living off of that. He was shooting almost 44% that season. So, hell, if he's shooting almost 44%, sign me up. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think what you saw from him last year is what you're going to see from him pretty close to what you'll see from him this year. Maybe a little bit better. So if you're in a deeper league, I would actually target him because of the steal block 3 potential there. Yeah.
I'll say this. In ESPN, he is ranked 283rd. So there's another guy in a deep league that he should be yours.
Asinine. Like, what's going on over there? These ESPN rankings need to be thrown out.
No,
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll throw them out now that other rankings are coming out. I'm sure they'll throw them out.
Here's the thing, though. Like, if you look at the rankings, like, there are some head scratchers early on, right? Like, I almost said Ty Lawson. Other backup.
Jones at 44.
Other Denver backup point guard. Isaiah Thomas is ranked way up there. Like, Emmanuel Mudiay is ranked in the standard league range that he shouldn't be. Like, there's some crazy ones, but it seems like they're in mostly 10-team leagues, right? So after pick like 130, their rankings just get totally wild. It's like they almost didn't even care anymore, and they were just like picking names on the board.
Well, they must have just like sorted by name or something like that, because like Ibaka is 159. Like, what? Come on, like that's like Ibaka is ranked under Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And like, so
what's going on there?
But like, here's my point. Go through those rankings. Like, if you have a draft coming up, go through those rankings and pick some of those guys that are way down there that don't belong there and move them up in your queue. So that way, you know, oh man, I can get Serge Ibaka with my last pick. I can get this player with my last pick. I can get that player with my last pick, because there's a bunch of guys down there in like the 200, 150 range that just do not belong there.
That is 100% true. And if you guys are out there are interested in us doing a kind of review of the rankings on ESPN Yahoo, we are waiting for those to settle in. And I feel like the Yahoo's is settling in pretty well. I don't know if ESPN's settled yet because of just some of these discrepancies there. It's like they had the fantasy football guy just kind of like take a glance at it and put it all together. We might wait a little bit on the ESPN ones, but if you want to hear that kind of stuff, like, contact us, leave us feedback. You can find me at Watch the Boxes. You can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts, WATTS, on Twitter. And if you like the show, guys, help us out. Rate, review us on whatever you're listening to this to. That really helps. What helps more is if you tell a friend, tell someone you're in a league with, let them know about the podcast. Let them know that we're out here. Have them download it and subscribe. And if you really want to help the podcast, we got patreon.com. If you want to be an exclusive member of our Patreon, just go out there and subscribe at patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. You'll get access to exclusive content, and you could also be entered into Tyler's Dynasty league that he's concocting all these crazy rules for, or just my boring redraft league where we're going to use all 9 categories. Even if you guys don't want to, we're still going to use them. We're going to use the turnovers. It's going to be my league. But we might go head-to-head considering Everybody wants to go head to head. I'm going to make a concession there, even though Roto head to head, Roto 9-cat auction, probably the best format. Probably do Snake. We'll probably do head to head. We're definitely doing 9 cats. It's not even a question. I could be talked into assist to turnover ratio. I could be talked into that.
I thought you were going to say 13 cats, add in the double doubles, the quad doubles.
No double doubles, no triple doubles. Stop. Everyone who's in a double double and triple double league out there, like, just call your commissioner and just go, we got to stop fooling ourselves like we're playing fantasy basketball. We're not. We're just rewarding arbitrary stats twice.
Well, here's the thing about like triple doubles. How many triple doubles were there last season?
More than usual, and there was still like 14 or something like that.
That's what I mean. Like, so like half the weeks, like that's just a tie category. Like, there's no point.
There's no point, and then also you're already being rewarded for getting a triple double with your double-digit points, your double-digit rebounds, and your double-digit assists. And assuming that's the triple double you got, you're already being rewarded for it. Why would you be extra rewarded for it by winning a category or getting more points in a points league? It just doesn't make any sense. And we'll probably rant about this in the future.
If you play in a turnover league and a guy gets 10 turnovers, does that count for your triple double?
It should.
Because then it could help.
That'd be great.
It could help and hurt you. It's like a balancing act. It's like a scale.
Yeah, like Westbrook might be the only guy who's going to get a quadruple double with turnovers. I think he almost did. In fact, the other year. Tyler, you got anything to plug? I know you've been writing a lot. You've been out there. You got a new gig. You want to plug any of that?
Yeah. So I write for a website called The Smoking Cuban. We cover just about anything you could want to know Dallas Mavericks. So if you're into Luka Doncic or Dirk or any of that stuff, and you want to check that out, you can.
I'm into both of those guys. They're cool. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch.
I got an article going up that will do 5 predictions for Luka Doncic's rookie year coming up. So that'll be a fun one to read.
That will be a good one. So go check that out. That is at The Smoking Cuban. I assume a reference to the beautiful country of Cuba, where you can now visit and you can smoke Cuban cigars in Cuba. I assume that's what the reference is for.
Something like that.
Something like that. Go check that out. Go support Tyler. He does a lot of good work out there. He's also at Tyler P. Watts, WATTS, on Twitter.com. I'm at Watch the Boxes. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. We're out of here. We'll see you next time. Have a good one, everybody.